I've used multiple AI tools to build an iOS app in 1 week, made some mistakes and learned some things. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about top 5 lessons I learned from building this iOS app. Hi, my name is Arda. I'm a computer science student at the University of California, Berkeley. In this channel, I share things from my experiences. I share things that I've learned, and I built this app and I want to share the lessons that I've learned. But before I do that, let me pitch you the app. Pokeforest is an app that leverages the latest built-in local LLM models that comes with Apple Intelligence. The question that I would ask you is, what kind of data would devastate you the most if you were to see it on Google? And some people say social security photos, messages, but I would say, how about your conversations with your therapist? A lot of people use ChatGPT for like mental health stuff and like personal health stuff, and I believe that we should bring that to local where we are not sharing any data. So I've combined Apple's local LLM models with an idea that existed for a lot of years, journaling, and came out with this Pokeforest app that gamifies journaling with mental support. That's kind of like overview of the app. There are a lot of little features that make things harder. Fixing the bug-wise, you've probably heard that AI gets you 80% of the way, but that last 20% requires a lot of work. And I've built like 95%. And right now I'm like at the stage of polishing it out. And these are the top lessons that I've learned. Before I get started, just want to make it clear that I'm not trying to sell anything. Nothing is sponsored. I'm just sharing my experiences in this video. Lesson number 5, documenting while you're building. If there is ever a situation where your AI model struggles with getting something that you want done, and which happens a lot, you ask for something, it builds it, but you get a bug. You send a screenshot of the bug, it fixes the bug, but guess you get another bug. And then you like dabble around until you get the solution fixed. Once you fix that in your app, ask your model to create a markdown like .md file, just like how there's like a readme, etc. I've learned this trick from Claude Code because I've realized sometimes Claude Code actually creates a .md file. When you try to do something similar again in the future, you can refer your model, AI model, to that MD file, like a notebook, like text. So it can go over, see what it did before, see what other model did before and what worked, so it can implement it. This saves a lot of time and it takes like only a couple seconds. Like you can just ask AI to create a .md file and be like, explain how you did this, explain the problems that you face, and explain how you solved it. And you can always refer back. Lesson number 4. When it comes to design, especially iOS design, it's very important to show rather than telling to these AI models. Unless you're like this master designer who can describe things so good with prompting, maybe you do you. But for the rest of the 99% of us that are not like the design masterminds, it's really hard to explain what you want exactly on a design with just words. Either you create these like super long prompts that are super detailed to get to what you want, or you use different tools that are like already trained on this. You get a screenshot and then feed it to your AI. If you just tell it to say, make a beautiful page, that's super vague. Usually AI models tend to create very similar designs. That's like why people, when they see a website, they go, oh, look at this gradient, like it looks so AI. It's because from the nature of these AI models getting trained, these AI models prefers just going the safe route and creating similar stuff. If you look at this blog post by Anthropic on improving front-end design through skills, you'll see that there's a steerability challenge. And you can see the examples of like before and after. Like before is just like they go like, create me this. And then after they say, never use these type of fonts and do this and do not that. It's kind of like, it's a very short prompt, but it changes the output dramatically, kind of pushes the AI to go out of their comfort zone, if you will. For my app, I've experimented with different websites. Let's say, Cursor for Figma type of websites that you just prompt and it gives you beautiful looking designs. The one I used was sleek.design, super new. I just saw the guy on Twitter and tried the website, gave me some cool designs that I ended up getting inspired from. If you just Google it, you'll see more websites like these websites. For example, there's one with like, it's called Create with Play or Natively, etc. I would experiment with these. Design is like a challenge when it comes to these AI models, and this is how I overcome it. Lesson number 3 is finding a working solution. What do I mean by that? If you're trying to use the latest technologies that the AIs are not specifically trained on, or something that's very niche that AI is struggling. For example, let's say you're trying to get an API working. Usually with documentation, it's easier to do. But let's say the document, you feed the documentation, it's still not working. Let's say you're trying to integrate an open source project. If you're trying to get something working that's new, that AI is not like very much trained on, you will face with problems. Like you will keep getting errors that are very repetitive, that are very frustrating. And the way I go about that is I try to find someone who have already done it on GitHub. You can use GitHub, you can use Google, just like search for some keywords and see if someone else already built it. Download their code, put it into Cursor or Windsurf or whatever you're using, and ask AI to reference the file that you just uploaded and be like, hey, can you look at the code that I uploaded, analyze it, and implement it the way that they implement it. When I do this, usually the first prompt just gives me a flawless output that I'm looking for, especially if I found a nice example. So rather than just like dabbling with AI, going back and forth with errors, etc., first, obviously, try linking the documentation, but sometimes they're not able to index the documentation very well, especially if the documentation is poorly built or very complicated. So this is like a workaround that if you're dabbling with AI with all those. We're getting close to lesson number 1, which I think is the most important one. But before that, lesson number 2 is experimenting with different tools and different models. Probably different models you've already been experimenting with, but sometimes when things are not working the way that you wanted to, go to a model that you previously thought was less powerful. Go to a model that you previously thought it was like dumb. And you might be surprised by the outcomes. And experiment with Cursor, Windsurf, or different IDEs. For example, I started with Cursor, I was only using Cursor, but then I ran out of my limits on Cursor and I was like, okay, we need something else. And then I downloaded Windsurf and then realized that they were giving ChatGPT 5.1 for free for like a week. And I really soaked it up. And then I was using Claude Code, same thing. They gave me some free credits because of their promotion to promote Claude Web. And I was experimenting with Claude Code, understanding the capabilities of it, seeing like pros and cons, etc. And just experimenting and leveraging these different tools to get essentially what I want. Lesson number 1, setting up custom rules. Now, a lot of people are kind of aware of what this is, but a lot of people don't do it. This kind of sets the baseline of your expectations, and it's super simple yet effective. Before these custom rules, AI would change things more than I wanted to. Like it would just be like, I would say do the X thing, and I would be like, oh, I'm doing X thing, but wow, I can do Y and Z thing as well. Let me change those too. I was like, no. I made that clear in my custom rules. Usually the way it goes is I ask AI to create a plan, I approve the plan, and it only does that plan. It doesn't change plans. It sticks to the plan. That's very important. One very important example I'll give you here is there's new iOS 26, and when I'm like developing in Swift environment, sometimes some models think iOS 26 doesn't exist. Then they go ahead and then change my code to the previous iOS. And then I get a bunch of errors. I'm like, and I realized this, and as soon as I realized that, I was like, iOS 26 does exist. Go double check your work and make sure to use iOS 26 with iOS 18 fallbacks. And if I didn't do this, I would just be going back and forth with AI changing my code to previous iOS versions, and I'm trying to get to the latest one. So I usually specify what's the latest iOS version here. So out of all 5 lessons, this one probably saved me the most time because it's always there. So those were the 5 things. These are all come from my own experiences, from things going wrong and me spending a bunch of unnecessary hours I probably shouldn't spend. There's a waitlist for my app down in the description if you want to be first ones to try that out. If it's already out, I'll link the App Store link as well. If this was helpful, please like and subscribe. 99% of you watching are not subscribed to my channel. I usually make videos about college, tech, career, internships, etc. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.